Well, the Seahawks make a big free agency move at running back, and I do mean big. Eddie Lacy, former Packer, but there are other positions that the Hawks are going to be looking to fill through free agency. Ian Furness from Seahawks Game Day is here. Good morning to you once again. Bill. Let's talk about the Lacy signing and how he fits into the Hawks backfield with Prosise and Thomas Rawls.
Well, I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. One would be certainly that this is putting those two guys on notice, and that would be C.J. Prosise and Thomas Rawls. Two players that have great potential, two players that have flashed brilliance with Seattle, but two players that, frankly, cannot stay healthy, and that's the biggest thing you notice with those guys, the fact that they can't stay on the field. Now, it's interesting because Eddie Lacy wasn't healthy last year either, and in fact, the year before missed a couple games as well, but they want to see Eddie Lacy from his first 2 years in the league, 2013, 2014, Bill. Those were 1,100-yard years for Eddie Lacy. Big, powerful back. He could be a great addition and really gives you three different backs in that backfield.
And the offensive line is a big concern, and Seahawk fans very concerned, saying we've got to address the offensive line. They started to with Jokel. He's a left tackle, maybe. Missed out on T.J. Lang. Those two signings together would have really solidified that line.
Yeah, here's what they've done so far. You can see Eddie Lacy sign, Luke Jokel, an offensive lineman who can play either tackle or guard. The question is, can he play them well? And Blair Walsh replaces Stephen Hauschka. I think the one thing that we notice about free agency every year, Bill, it's like the weather. Every morning MJ comes in here and tells us the same thing. It's raining. Yeah, that's what it is. It's raining.
This time of year, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing right now with Seahawk fans. Every year at this time, we panic because of why? Well, the Seahawks haven't done enough in free agency. That's a good thing. That means you're a good football team. You don't have salary cap room. You've already got your core guys under contract. I think the biggest question is the offensive line, though. We all know it's been a struggle. I asked Pete Carroll yesterday on the radio about that. I said, is it a compromise? Is it safe to say that you spend all that money on your defense, all those Pro Bowlers and all pro players, you have a franchise quarterback, which everyone's looking for in the National Football League, you have that. Is the offensive line simply your salary cap compromise? And he said, absolutely, that's what it is.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. How much cap room do they have to deal with right now? And they are going to take a look at Jared Cook, the former Packer, potentially future Packer tight end. And so I guess it's a question, do you want to try to re-sign Luke Wilson, who's a free agent, or you go with Jared Cook, who's had some real success in this league?
Yeah, they're kind of, in some ways, similar players. They're both good pass-catching tight ends. They can block. I think Luke Wilson might even have evolved to a better blocker right now, but they love to play with two tight ends to the Seahawks. They have one of those. It's Jimmy Graham. People will say, well, is Jimmy Graham going to get cut? You can save $10 million on the salary cap. He just picked up a $2 million salary bonus on Saturday this past week, so they're not going to get rid of Jimmy Graham for another year. They've already said that. So is Jared Cook going to come here as opposed to Luke Wilson? That's a question remains to be seen. They don't have a ton of space. I mean, that's the one thing. You go back to it. Your quarterback, your core is under contract. The teams that have a ton of salary cap space are the teams that aren't in the playoffs. They're the bad football teams. This is a good problem to have, not having salary cap.
Real quick, as the Hawks head towards the draft now, it seems like we have a little better idea of where they may be headed.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, too. Remember, we're really early in this offseason process. The NFL league year began last Thursday. We're 6 days now into the NFL's league year. You have 3 waves. NFL free agency, the first wave, second wave of free agency, which we're kind of in right now, NFL draft, and then June, the third wave of free agency. That's when other players get cut. You could see some moves here. There's a couple guys that could get let go to free up some space. So we're very, very early in the offseason process.
All right, Ian, thank you. And by the way, we're going to be chatting NCAA tournament brackets. If you haven't filled out your bracket just yet, I know you're getting ready for March Madness. We'll hopefully give you an idea of maybe a few sleepers and maybe a few Final Four picks.
We'll give it a shot.
We'll give it a whirl. That's coming up.